Hi everyone, I am about to show you how I make some homemade strawberry ice cream with a bonus of butter pecan. So we're going to start out with our containers that I'm going to put my ice cream in. We have some extra creamy Cool Whip. I have some fresh strawberries that I made into a syrup, strawberry flavoring and red food coloring, sweetened condensed milk, heavy whipping cream, pecans, butter. For those pecans, some sweetened condensed milk, vanilla, and of course another container of extra creamy Cool Whip. This is going to be an easier version of my ice cream than I showed in my other videos with my butter pecan ice cream. And I believe you will love this. But this is pretty much all you will need. So we're going to start out by toasting, of course, our butter pecans or our pecans for our ice cream. So we're going to start out with 1 cup of halved pecans, and we are going to place them inside of a dry skillet, and we're just going to lightly toast these until you start to smell them. The oils of the pecans is going to come through. Now you definitely want to wash these because you don't want them to burn or scorch. And after they are completely toasted and have that nice pecan smell coming through, we're going to use 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter, and this butter is going to just go ahead and melt through with these pecans. And then I'm going to add just a little pinch of sea salt, and this is going to adhere to the nuts with that butter, and it's going to give it a really good flavor. Now if you want, you can use salted butter and then you want to omit the sea salt, but I'm just adding about 1/4 of a teaspoon of that salt, and I'm just going to give it a little toss, and I'm going to let them sit to the side and cool off. Now right here I'm going to add my sweetened condensed milk, and this is one of the steps that make this ice cream a little bit easier to prepare. Now I'm adding the sweetened condensed milk versus using the whole eggs and regular milk and doing the whole back and forth process. The sweetened condensed milk makes it a little bit easier, and it still give it a nice rich flavor to your ice cream. This is 1 egg, and this is from 1 egg yolk from 1 large egg, and I'm going to let this just slowly mix together as I add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Now you want to stir this on a very medium low temperature because you don't want your milk to scorch or anything. I just did like a little quick dash of the vanilla, and this is going to get stirred in, and that egg is going to cook with that sweetened condensed milk until it becomes a nice custard-like texture. Now this is the base that we're going to use for our butter pecan ice cream. And once I give this a really good mix and this is well heated, I'm going to make like a little ice bath. Now the milk mixture will go inside of some of my ice has spilled to the side, but the milk mixture is going to go inside of a stainless steel bowl, which is going to be placed inside of the ice bath. This is going to help that cool down really well, that custard that we made for our ice cream. So you want to make sure that your ice bowl is a lot larger than the bowl that you're placing your custard in. And I'm just going to pour this in here really carefully to make sure that it does not spill into the ice water. And we're going to let this sit to the side, and as that cooled down, we're going to do the same method for the strawberry ice cream. So right now, I'm just going to place this bowl to the side here, and we're going to get started on our flavors for our strawberry ice cream. Now, of course, we're going to do the same method. I'm going to get my sweetened condensed milk, and I have some fresh strawberries that I cooked and made into a nice little syrup. And I also have some strawberry flavoring along with a little bit of red food coloring. Now, these two are going to also help this strawberry ice cream look really, really good. So I'm just going to go ahead like I did with the flavored custard for the butter pecan and pour 1 can of my sweetened condensed milk. Then when it heats up a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and add my strawberries. Now this is about a good 2.5 cups of strawberries that were already cooked, and if you want, you can use frozen. I'm using just about a capful of the strawberry flavor, which is about a teaspoon. Now if you want, you can do a 1/2 teaspoon, it just depending on how strong of a strawberry flavor you want. I did 1 teaspoon. I'm adding a couple drops of the red food coloring, and this is just going to help that red enhance even more for that nice delicious strawberry homemade ice cream. Now, of course, as you can see, I'm adding my 1 egg yolk, and I'm going to let this all cook through for about a good 2 or 3 minutes until it's nice and warm, and you can see the little steam coming through, and it kind of got a nice thick custardy type texture, and that's what you're looking for. You want that nice thick custard texture, and this is going to be a nice rich creamy ice cream. And of course, we're going to do the same method by placing this inside of a stainless steel bowl, and the bowl will go inside of an ice bath. Now, I did not have a bigger bowl for this custard to go into, so I just made sure that my sink was all nice and clean, and I placed my ice inside of the sink along with some really ice cold water. And then I went ahead and I placed my bowl inside the sink, as you can see. And the ice and the ice cold water is going to help this custard for the strawberry ice cream cool down really, really fast. Now, you can stand there and just do a lot of swirls until it cools down faster. But I had to work on my custard for the butter pecan ice cream. So I went to check on that, and you can see that has cooled down really nice, and it is ready to go for the next step, which is folding in that heavy whipping cream. And that is so good. Now, I did a little taste and to check, make sure that it was really cooled down, and it was. And I cleaned off my hands, which you could not see behind the cameras, but this came out really, really good. Now, we're going to go ahead and get our extra creamy. You want extra creamy Cool Whip for this ice cream recipe. And that way, this also cut down on the whole hand whipping up of the Cool Whip or the whipped cream like I did in my first ice cream video. I'm going to use most of this bowl in this ice cream. It was a little hard for me to use one hand and scooping in this whipped cream inside of there. So I'm going to show you how I kind of did one hand, and then I went ahead and folded it in, because you do not want this whipped cream to deflate. We want to keep it in its thick, creamy consistency, nice and airy. And as you can see, I used about half of that extra creamy whipped cream inside the custard, and I'm going to add an extra 3/4 cup of heavy whipping cream to this. Now, this is going to cut down on some of the sweetness of that sweetened condensed milk and that whipped cream, but it's going to give it some really good, rich, creamy flavor. You can look at the consistency of this. See how thick and creamy it is? Now, after we do that step, we give it a final look, and then we're going to go ahead and cover this with plastic. And you want to make sure that you have the plastic touch the top of the ice cream, because we don't want this cream to get any type of crystallization on top of it as it sits in the freezer. And we're going to let this sit in the freezer for about a good 1 to 1.5 hours before we add our pecans. Now, I went and checked on my strawberry mixture, and this was probably about a good 10 minutes later, and as you can see, it has cooled down. It has that nice thick custard like consistency that we're looking for. So once your custard has completely cooled down from sitting in your ice bath, then we can go ahead and add our heavy whipping cream and, of course, our extra creamy Cool Whip. And once again, we're going to go ahead and fold this into our custard, not mixing it too hard. Like I said, we want to make sure that that whipped cream stay nice and airy. We want our ice cream to be nice and fluffy and just so rich and full of flavor. So as you can see, I did the same thing. I added 3/4 cup of heavy whipping cream to that, and I'm just folding it in real gently. And then this also will be placed inside of a plastic container. Actually, I did not place this inside of a plastic container. I went ahead and just left it inside there, and I covered it with plastic. And of course, I'm going to make sure that the plastic is completely covered over the ice cream, because we don't want any type of crystals to form on this. And we're going to place this in the freezer for 1 hour to an hour and a half. After about an hour and a half, I pulled the plastic off, and as you can see, it started to settle and start to get a little bit solid, but just enough for me to go ahead and add my toasted cooled down pecans that were salted with a little bit of sea salt and also with some butter. And of course, I'm checking my strawberry ice cream and it's looking nice. So here's where I'm adding my pecans. And you don't want to add these too early because the pecans will sink down to the bottom. So that's why you want to wait for your ice cream custard to freeze at least for an hour and a half before you add your pecans. And I went ahead and added a little bit more heavy cream because it still was a little bit thick. And then I tested it with a spoon. It was a little bit sweet. So this heavy cream is going to help tone down the sweetness. You definitely want to taste your ice cream to make sure that it's not too syrupy sweet. Heavy cream will help balance that sweetness. So I added about an extra half. And then I placed these in 2 separate containers because these were going to a friend and her mother. So these were not for us, and that's why they were in separate containers. And I placed them in the freezer for another hour and a half before I did another stir. Now, of course, I did the same method with my strawberries. I did not want my strawberries to all sink to the bottom, so I gave it another little stir. And then as I stirred it lightly and gently or gave it a nice little fold, I went ahead and I covered that up also. And this went into the freezer. And I placed this in a plastic container because this strawberry ice cream was for us. And that went in the freezer for 6 hours, or you can let it sit overnight. I let mine sit for 6 hours, and as you can see, my ice cream was ready because my freezer is pretty cold. I was able to place my container as far in the back of the freezer as possible, and that coldness was able to get directly onto my container, allowing my ice cream to freeze in those 6 hours. Now, what is not pictured is my butter pecan ice cream because I had to deliver that after the 6 hours. I did make this early in the morning, so around 3 o'clock I had delivered this to my friend's mother and to her for them to enjoy. And you can see the butter pecan came out just as creamy as this strawberry ice cream is. I mean, this strawberry ice cream had that nice chunks of strawberries, just so good, so delicious. I really hope you all want to try this recipe. And as time go on, I really hope that you all decide that this is the channel you want to get all your recipes from. So, thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a great evening. Stay tuned. The recipe will be posted within a couple days. Thank you, and God bless.